Welcome to the official podcast of Eternia.com. We have the power. I'm your host, AJ, aka Voodoo Magic, aka Zor, and sitting hundreds of miles away from me is my right-hand man-at-arms, Colt, aka Red Pyramid, aka Dad-at-Arms, aka the president and founder of the I Hate Fisto Club. How you doing today, Colt?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much, AJ.
Guys, I'm going to be busting his chops a lot about this. So, but he's being a good sport.
It's okay.
So this is episode 2 of our podcast, and it's titled The Time Corridor, an episode title borrowed from the 1983 Filmation series, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, that classic. And it feels apropos because in this episode, we are going to kick off a string of episodes and go back in time almost a year and give our take, our impressions on the Masterverse, Masters of the Universe Revelation action figures, starting with Wave 1 today, He-Man and Skeletor, and number 2, discussing at length each episode of Masters of the Universe Revelation, the Netflix series, starting with episode 1, The Power of Grayskull. So it's an exciting lineup, and I know we're behind, but this is what it's all about for us. And we'll catch up, and hopefully, when the new series comes around, we'll be doing these as they air.
Yes.
But I'm thinking we should do the figures first, Colt, because those came out first.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what?
If I remember right, they released... I'm trying to remember. They released, was it a month and a half before the show premiered? Something like that?
But I tell you what, before we even do that, let's skip a beat and let's go to letters. Because our podcast received our first letter, our first email, to be technical.
Oh, awesome.
And it came from a listener or viewer, depending if he watched on YouTube, named Andy. And Andy says, "Hey, I wanted to say that I enjoyed the first episode of your podcast. It's nice to find some guys who are at the same fan level as me. I'm not a keyboard warrior, just enjoying Motu as an adult and getting my son interested too. I just want to drop you a word of encouragement. Be well, Andy." So
That's
how about
nice.
that? Yeah.
That's very sweet.
Thank you, Andy.
Like
yeah. We appreciate the encouragement. We can use that because we're just two silly guys doing a podcast. So that makes us feel good. We love that you're getting your son involved.
Definitely.
Hopefully he becomes a Motu fan as big as you, Andy. I have a son. He's somewhat into it. He's not as into it as I am. His shelves don't quite look like this. You know what? He was in love with The Last Airbender. I don't know if you've ever invested in those shows. He hates that movie, though, the one by M. Night Shyamalan.
Okay, the live action one?
Yeah.
M. Night S. That's what we say.
M. Night S?
No one can pronounce that last name. At least I can't.
Yeah. But so it was the first letter we received, that's the podcast received. So we just wanted to read it on air. And if you want to send us a note, you could always send us an email as well at foreternia@gmail.com, and we might just read it on the air. So please be nice.
Very cool. Very cool.
So thanks.
We appreciate those words of encouragement. Like you said, AJ, we're just trying to enjoy ourselves and trying to talk about what we love, and it's good to see that other people can dig what we're doing.
Yeah, if they're enjoying it, it makes us want to keep going, right?
Yeah.
If
Yep.
if everyone's having a horrible time and throwing virtual tomatoes at their screen,
then
this
we'll do it out of spite.
We will hack into your internet connection and air this on your screen.
Yes.
Just out of spite. That's what Colt will do because he's an angry guy. Angry
Yep.
with Fisto.
Mm.
So actually, do you want to humor me with Fisto before we start on the Masterverse figures? Do you dare humor me? Okay.
Sure. I'll humor you.
All right. So regarding your issues with Fisto, Colt, as an unlicensed therapist wannabe, as myself, I have prepared a list of questions that will hopefully get down to the root of your hatred for Fisto.
Okay.
Now, feel free to answer yes, no, or don't answer at all and just give me your middle finger.
Okay.
Are you ready, Colt?
I'm ready. My fingers are flexed.
So, and that might be an answer to question one. So let's find out why you hate Fisto. Question number one, Colt. Are you missing any fingers or thumbs and just jealous of anyone who can make a fist?
No.
Okay. Question number two. Are you just a foot person and would really prefer a character named Foot-O?
No, I'm very specifically not a foot person, and a character named Foot-O would just make me footer.
I see. All right. Question three. Do you really just have a problem with the letter O and would be fine with a character named Fist M, Fist N, or Fist P?
No, I don't have a problem with the letter O.
Interesting, guys. Colt's gonna leave this podcast in record time. All right. Do you have a fear of orange beards?
No, because I actually have a reddish hue to my beard. Can't see it on screen, but there's some red in there. So that's definitely not my problem with Fisto.
All right, last question, and I'll stop torturing you. Do you feel sorry for Fisto that he has to use his non-dominant hand every time he has to scratch an itch?
I'll give that one a yes, because that would be tough.
All right. Well, maybe there's something there, but be honest with you, I'm still stumped. So, guys, I don't know. It looks like Colt's problem with Fisto goes deeper than we thought, and we won't be solving that mystery anytime soon.
on today's episode, we won't be solving Colt's problem with Fisto.
No, but I promise we'll keep working on it, and we will get to the bottom of it. We will help Colt through this issue. For the record, guys, Colt didn't know that was coming. So.
I did not. I feel a little flushed in my face. I feel like I'm blushing.
You feel loved. You feel like someone's trying to help you. I'm reaching out.
It's all in good fun.
And after this is all done, I will be prescribing some medication as well.
Love it.
All right, guys. On that note, Colt has humored me enough. So we're going to start with the Masterverse He-Man and Skeletor. And we're going to start with a little history, just like Colt was leaning to, where Mattel unveiled a new Masters of the Universe Masterverse toy line last year. It was announced ahead of the new Netflix series Masters of the Universe Revelation. Masters of the Universe Revelation premiered July 23rd, 2021. But like Colt was saying, the first wave of figures became available June 15th. Now that shows
which fun fact, June 15th is my birthday.
that is awesome.
So
Really?
yeah, so the fact that they released on my birthday was very exciting. And
Now that is cool.
I went to my local Walmart and they had nothing. There were no He-Man figures on the shelf, so I didn't actually get them for my birthday.
That is awesome. I'm going to tell you a little personal fact right now. My poor wife, her birthday is the same day as Hitler's birthday. I am
Oh
not
no.
lying. Yeah.
Oh, that's rough.
So I like yours better. Yours, instead of bringing us death and destruction and memories of death and destruction, yours brings He-Man and Skeletor figures.
Yes.
So, all right. So the show's this is going to be a silly one, guys. This show's complimentary toy line started with 6 figures in that wave. It was He-Man, Skeletor, Evelyn, Moss Man, Battle Cat, and Skelegod. And I believe Skelegod Colt was considered a deluxe version.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a deluxe.
And that was at a higher price point. And this new Masterverse collection was advertised at a base size of 7 inches with at least 30 points of articulation for extreme posability, and was equipped with accessories unique to the characters. And I seem to recall in the beginning that there were silhouettes of the characters or of the figures that were available at first. And if I remember, Motu Classic figure fans were saying, if this is not a direct continuation of the classic figures, we won't be happy, and we have zero interest. So clearly they were giving it a fair shake here.
Yeah, I remember though when those silhouettes were first revealed, there was actually more silhouettes than what we would eventually get with Wave 1. If I remember correctly. Yeah, because I remember specifically I could identify the silhouette of both Evelyn and Teela. And Teela's silhouette actually isn't her mercenary design, it's her classic design. And so I remember that silhouette being there.
Okay. So, that's interesting because I've always wondered, and we're going to get to He-Man and Skeletor, guys. I've always wondered, why did they release Skelegod so early? I mean, and that was a big spoiler for the show, right? It was kind of surprising. And if I remember all the YouTube, the big YouTube reviewers of action figures, I think the first figures they got was Battle Cat and Skelegod, or a lot of them did.
Well, I think those were the ones that were they were the first on the shelves, and they're still the ones that are on shelves now. There's so many Skelegod and Battle Cat figures most places you go, from what I've experienced.
Actually, in my neck of the woods, Colt, I can't find Battle Cats. I can't
really
find Battle Cats. And there was a time where they went on clearance, and some people in certain states were saying, oh my God, you can get this for half off. Never once. The time they were in my Target still, and I would run them over a few times to the little scanner. I'm like, even if they're not tagged as clearance, maybe they are still, half off, but not in my neck of the woods.
See, I never saw them for the clearance prices, but even just 2 days ago, I was at my local Walmart, and there's stacks of Skelegod and stacks of Battle Cat figures.
Isn't that interesting? How different stores in different regions, there seems to be either a lot of movement on certain characters, a lot of movement on other characters, a lot of movement on the entire line, or not much movement at all. It's really regional, the popularity, but clearly, and we could do this on a different podcast, but we have articles on Eternia.com. Mattel was initially very pleased with the Masterverse sales.
Yeah. I think they said it increased sales by over 3% than what they had initially projected, something like that. I might be misremembering, but the toy sales were better than they had anticipated and better than they had projected, and they were very happy with their numbers.
Yeah, they had a big jump and was thankful to impart these Masters of the Universe Masterverse figures. And
Hmm.
yeah, they were very excited. And I was excited to hear these were a success at launch because what does this mean? More figures, right?
Yep. It means that
So,
the toy line is viable and that justifies more toys and hopefully more Masters of the Universe projects.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So, what do you want to tackle first? Do you want to tackle He Man or the Lord of Destruction?
Well, I think it would be appropriate if we just jumped right in with the main man.
Yeah, let's do it. So, Colt, why don't you start here and
Okay.
let me throw up an image for everyone here and hopefully it's not going to block us. Let's see if I get this is obviously for just our YouTube viewers. Ah, right in our faces. Look at that.
There he is.
There he is. All right, I'm going to take him away for now, but there he is. All right, go for it. What do you think about the Masterverse, Masters of the Universe Revelation He-Man action figure, Colt?
I like him a lot. I I think I have my disappointments with the figure, which there's a couple of Masterverse figures that I have disappointments with, but overall, he's a good figure. I like his proportions. He easily identifiable as He-Man. I mean, you see him hanging on the shelf, and you know exactly who it is. Um, yeah, it's exciting because when I finally got him in hand, I was like, I have a new He-Man figure in my hands, and that's always exciting for me.
So, Colt, I threw up this photo up here. It's blocking our pretty faces,
Hmm.
but it's a figure. It's the He-Man Masterverse figure and some shots from Revelation. And my perspective with this He-Man is I listened before I got it in my hands. I heard a lot of criticism.
Hmm.
One of the main criticisms I heard was the head was too small for He-Man.
Yeah,
But if you look at the way the animated figure was created and was designed in Revelation, the head is just generally smaller. It isn't a design flaw.
yeah. No,
It's
it matches his animated counterpart.
yeah, absolutely. And for anyone watching on YouTube, you can see on the photos that we have presented on the screen, especially the one in the top right.
Yeah,
I mean, his head looks a lot smaller than his body, even on the top left as well. And these aren't manipulated screenshots; these are just actual, stills from the film. And if anything, I think the Masterverse figure actually um, lessened the differential between He-Man's head size and his body to some degree.
yeah. He doesn't look as massive in the toy version as he does on screen.
Yeah, yeah,
His physicality.
but I still think there is a little proportion difference between the head and the body, and I guess I'm just trying to say that out of all the criticisms I heard, um, I don't really think it's a valid complaint, considering the cartoon it was trying to emulate.
Yeah. And another thing that I heard a lot of people take issue with is just how the figure seemed, I don't know what's the word, lanky, like how the figure seemed lanky.
Yeah.
Um, and too small head, lanky figures and stuff, which again, I don't necessarily buy that criticism because the 2000X action figures exist and they're super lanky with tiny heads and weird proportions as well. And for in my opinion, I think the Masterverse figures look much better than the 2000 series action figures.
I actually I actually think, yeah, these look fantastic compared to the
Hmm.
2000X figures. And I don't have that impression of this lankiness. It's a body type of actually seeing. Actually, I'm a big fan of this CBS show called Survivor. And I could wish it's the latest season, season 42, and I wish I could remember the contestant, but they kind of referred him to as a Captain America.
Okay.
But this guy pretty much has the same body type as He-Man, and he's very tall. He's 6 foot, I don't know, 6 or something, and he has a very lankiness appearance to him. So I don't necessarily see that as a negative to human anatomy or the figure. And actually, if you ever look at these like shots of real bodybuilders, their heads do look small compared to their bodies, man.
Yeah, I mean their muscles are so big, something's got to look small, and it's the head.
Yeah, just their pecs alone, you know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's funny that you bring up Captain America, because in that first Marvel movie, the first Captain America movie, when we first see Chris Evans, muscled up after he gets injected with the super soldier serum, his head looks small in comparison to his new massive muscles.
it does. It does. So when I got this in hand, I wasn't upset at all. First, I guess if we just go to the packaging, right? It has this interesting window box packaging, and it looks like there's hieroglyphics sort of on
Yeah,
the top of the box.
yeah.
And
There's a bunch of different symbols that kind of represent different characters, different factions within the Masters of the Universe.
yeah,
It's
like
kind of
towards
an
the right,
interesting
I
thing.
see that the Havoc staff,
Hmm.
and it looks like towards the left of that is the Horde symbol.
Hmm.
And it is interesting. And so the
We've even
package,
got like the double swords, that the double H/swords symbol
yeah,
that we see in the CGI cartoon. Like, it's on there.
yeah.
So it's interesting packaging for sure.
And I do love that you don't have to destroy the packaging to remove the figure,
It's
that it
very,
has,
yeah, very collector friendly.
yeah, that has a pull-out tray so you can choose to display it, leave some of the accessories inside, and then just slide the tray back in or slide the figure back in, and it pretty much looks brand new.
Hmm.
Also, what I was immediately grabbed by this packaging was the art of Amon O'Donoghue, and
It's
the
beautiful artwork.
beautiful artwork of He-Man and holding the power sword, and the power sword is like charged up, and it's really terrific on all the box art he's done. But being my first impression of getting He-Man in my hands, I think it was the first figure I got in my hands. I really enjoyed it, and then I pulled it out, and to be honest with you, like I said, I didn't have any of the proportion problems. I looked at his face, and I wasn't
Hmm.
sure about the head. I had no problem with the head necessarily, but I started wondering, is the head on He-Man a better Adam than he is a better He-Man?
Yeah, it's an interesting. I think that's one of my main complaints with the figure is the face sculpt. He looks a little. I don't know. It has grown on me. When I first saw it, I was like, I don't like this very much. What I do like about it is I like that we finally have a He-Man figure that is smiling and he looks happy. Because a lot of the He-Man figures we get, he's got a grimace on his face, or
Yeah.
he looks like he's ready for battle. So
Unless you have
I,
that
I, I don't.
Filmation laughing one,
Yeah. The laughing Prince Adam
He's got
He-Man
his
head.
head cocked back and
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, that was definitely one of the things I kind of scratched my head about, was
so
just the face sculpt. And
I'm with you on the face sculpt, and I was saying this is probably a better Adam than a better He-Man, but you know what? It grew on me. So at
yeah,
first
yeah,
I was like, I'm gonna replace it with Faker's
yes,
additional head
yep.
and paint those,
Paint the ibis blue.
yep, and paint those red eyes blue. And then I was like, you know what? There was a custom head that was being passed around. Not the custom head itself, but the news of this guy. I think it was Hordak.
Yeah, Hordak MX. I
Right.
actually have I have that head on my figure. On one of my I have multiple He-Man figures, full disclosure. But yeah, I've got, if you can see that, that's
Yeah.
the Hordak MX head sculpt.
So I picked up one as well. Okay. And ironically, Colt, I never kept it on my He-Man figure. Um, this original head has grown on me, that the He-Man up there on Battle Cat, screaming for Eternia,
Mm-hmm.
promoting for Eternia.com.
As he should.
As he should. That I wanted to keep the original head on. So I actually have a custom head that's wrapped up in little bubble wrap that is just not getting any use. So for some reason, it has grown on me. Like I said, I never thought it was bad. I never thought it was too small based on the cartoon. I just thought maybe it was a better Adam than a He-Man. But
Mm-hmm.
now, you know what? I it's grown on me. I have no complaints, and the original He-Man head is on my figure. So
You know, and I think what it does, what for me, the reason it's grown on me is having seen the series, you know, seeing all 10 episodes, we get a better idea of who He-Man is and who Adam is. And there's very few instances in that show where he's not, you know, smiling. Like he's a happy character, you know.
yeah,
And I like
considering
that.
everything that's happened, yeah, it
Yeah.
definitely is. Yeah.
Yeah. He's still, you know, he has an easy smile, and I think that's important to the character himself.
So looking back at the figure, I think there was another complaint that his what do you call it? His power harness.
Yeah,
Um,
the H symbol was, you know, has replaced the cross symbol that he usually has.
Actually, that's not where I was going, but
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
But we could go there right now. Yeah, I'm fine with the H
Yeah,
symbol
yeah.
versus the Iron Cross. I know there is some negative connotation to the Iron Cross. I I'm not an expert in that. Something to do, I
Yeah.
think, with one of the world wars and maybe the Nazis. I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I just think I think the H symbol is more, I don't know. There's more vintage action figures that sport this H symbol on them than they do the cross symbol.
Yeah, in all
And so
fairness,
I think it's more of a branding thing, if I'm being honest.
and if all fairness, if some people go say, "Hey, man, why'd you modify his power harness, man, and for the new cartoon?" Well, if you guys remember the vintage toy, didn't he have that symbol on the battle armor?
Yeah, Battle Armor He-Man had it. The Flying Fist He-Man figure had that symbol on it.
Yeah,
I'm looking at my shelf. Yeah, Battle Armor had it, Flying Fist He-Man had it. I think even not the Laser Lights He-Man, but there's another one in there, the Power Punch He-Man.
yeah.
They all had that symbol, the H, you know, the H symbol.
So it's nothing new, guys. So it's
No,
nothing,
it's been part of the brand for quite a while.
and it's really not something to get bent out of shape, over.
Yeah.
But but actually, what I was referring to is some people were complaining that the battle harness was too high up on his chest, that
Oh, okay.
you could see some of his pecs underneath the battle harness. But be honest with you, I can see that on the cartoon version as well.
Yeah.
That even straight on for our YouTube viewers, I'm posting pictures again, that the top left appears again that it's resting a little higher than where his pecs line up,
Hmm.
the bottom picks as well. So it's I think it looks more prominent where the joint is, where
Yeah, yeah, that ab crunch joint.
yeah. But again, I don't see, once you pay attention to the cartoon, they were clearly trying to come as close to that powerhouse studio animation model
Yeah.
as much as they could. So I'm fine with it. And I liked it. Some of the other complaints were the gauntlets were too yellow. They're not gold enough. I'm like,
I
it's
mean,
fine.
for a $20 figure, it's a good figure.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, but we're collectors, right?
Yeah.
And we nitpick.
Yeah.
I mean, I do it as well. My main complaint about this figure, aside from the face sculpt, is that he didn't come with a battle axe.
Yeah, but that's not really Filmation, right? The battle
No,
axe.
it's not.
No. I mean, the
I
shield isn't either, but
It's not. And I think that was just my main thing is like, no, every He-Man action figure always comes with a sword, a shield, and a battle axe. So
yeah.
where's my battle axe? And that was the extent of my outrage.
Well, I overall really like this He-Man.
I do
So
too.
now he's not my favorite. I'm going to ask you, Colt, what your favorite is, but I'm going to tell you mine first. My favorite He-Man is behind me. It's the Club Greyskull Classics 2.0 Filmation. Not the ultimate that came out afterwards from Super 7, but the actual just Filmation one. I have it
Okay.
right behind me, and that's my favorite He-Man. But you know what? I really like this one too, and I'm glad I have it. And I have them prominently displayed on my battle kit.
Very cool.
Yeah. So what's yours? Your favorite?
So I'm going to cheat a little bit, but my favorite He-Man action figure is the Classics PowerCon exclusive Horde Zombie He-Man.
Oh,
But that's just because it's a green translucent figure, and I'm a sucker.
yeah.
I'm a sucker for glow in the dark figures and translucent figures. So, but no, as far as a standard He-Man figure goes, uh, my I guess my favorite vintage is the Battle Armor He-Man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like them all. Every time a new He-Man figure comes out, I get excited.
Yeah.
I really like the Revelation one. I think at first I kind of was worried about it, but the more I have it on my shelf, it's grown on me. I have 3 different figures of Revelation He-Man. I have the one that I customize heavily that has the custom head on it, but then I just have 2 standard ones. One is a Stride Battle Cat over on that shelf, and then one is behind me up on this shelf doing the spin move with Tila
The spin move.
from Revelation.
So, guys,
So, yeah.
just so you know, while Colt and I both collect figures, I kind of just display them amateurly, just pretty much standing there holding a weapon. But, Colt is really into dynamically posing them, and he's getting into taking photographs as well. And aren't you starting to put images on a Instagram page? Do you want to share that account?
Yeah, so that's actually where the Dad at Arms moniker comes from, is from my Instagram account. And yeah, it's a toy photo account with a big focus on He-Man figures.
Yeah.
So very
So
new at it. I definitely don't claim to be a professional at it, but it's a fun hobby that I've picked up in the past year, and it's been a lot of fun.
that's what it's all about, having fun. So
Yeah.
so it sounds like we're both high in the He-Man figure, and
Mhm.
for both of us, it grew on us. But so let's now move to Skeletor. And be honest with you, I can't say Skeletor, the Masterverse, Masters of the Universe Revelation action figure, has grown on me the same way. And I'm going to be brutally honest that this is either my least favorite Masterverse figure or it's tied with my least favorite Masterverse figure of the line. Now, this doesn't mean I hate it. I have a trash can underneath me. It's not going in the trash. But I am disappointed with this, and I'm really going to kick it off now, and then I'll let Colt pick up on this one. I'm going to display the for our YouTube viewers some images of Skeletor from Masters of the Universe Revelation and the Masters of the Universe Masterverse Skeletor, and it actually looks more closely than it does in hand, but the face color is off. It's one of my first beefs with Skeletor, where Skeletor in the cartoon, in both the Filmation series and in Revelation, has this yellow face. But the Masterverse figure has this greenish bone color.
It almost looks like it's supposed to be a glow-in-the-dark face, but it doesn't glow.
No, it doesn't.
When I first saw promotional images for it, I was like, oh, that would be cool if his face glows. Because that's what I thought that's what they were doing.
But yeah, I mean, I guess it's cool on its on face value, but once you start getting into the lore and saying this is not scare glow, you know, unless there's some sort of story-driven reason why his face is glowing. But yeah, it comes off as green. And when you hold this figure in hand, a lot of his armor is this like light purple. I'm not very good with colors, guys.
Yeah, the colors don't match on this figure. Even his skin tone is, it's the blue is very light. The purple in his armor is too light. It's almost I don't know. It's a light purplish color, almost a pastel purple, instead of a deep dark purple like in the cartoon. It just, I don't know. The best part about this figure to me is his Havoc staff. The Havoc staff looks amazing.
Yeah, I have to agree with the Havoc staff, except, man, I would have loved this figure to come with a fireball and the Havoc staff mouth opens.
Oh,
and you could, like,
I would love to have an articulated Havoc staff like that, where the jaw opens.
Yeah, and
that would be so good.
A translucent fireball to it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, forget the shaping staff, because I mean, I like the shaping staff, the lore behind Filmation, but it's just not a very good looking piece of plastic here.
And
it
sits in a separate container on my shelf, out of use.
Yeah. So I'm guys, yeah, if I have any sort of disappointment in Masterverse, it is this Skeletor figure. I still I love, by the way, don't get me wrong, guys, I adore the way the Skeletor looks in Masters of the Universe Revelation, and Eamon's O'Donoghue's art as well. And the artwork looks great. And again, it looks like a yellow skull face.
Yeah.
You know, unlike the actual figure that comes across this green bone color. And
the face, I don't know. The only thing I can think of with the face is it reminds me of a glob of toothpaste.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, that's not a good look.
What a review that you like. You know, have you those movie reviews where you have a caption and you slap on top of the movie poster?
It's a glob of toothpaste.
A glob of toothpaste, says Colt from Eternia.com podcast. I doubt they're going to print that on the box.
No, probably not.
No.
Which is disappointing, because Skeletor is always one of the figures that I always look forward to the most with any new Masters of the Universe toy line. I mean, it's a skeleton man. Like, what's not to love?
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to actually repaint the whole thing, you know, just to see how it comes out, repaint the face yellow and repaint the armor, the whole everything, the whole body correctly. And so then I can really identify if that sculpt can really produce a gorgeous Skeletor. But I don't know. Maybe one day, we'll see. So
it's amazing.
The good news with these figures, though, is it's only gets better. You know, as we keep going down the line, it's like they are on a roll, you know, and they just keep outdoing themselves, in my opinion. So, but
one thing that one of the I guess one of the changes in the Masterverse line that I think is interesting has to do with the package. With Wave 1, all of the standard figures, when you pull them out of the box, they have a clamshell plastic case that holds them in to their
Yeah.
tray, as opposed to subsequent releases of, starting with Wave 2, where they have the plastic ties that hold them in.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting. I wonder why that is. Seems odd.
Again, like we said in the first podcast, we're going to have to get someone from Mattel if we can.
Yeah.
I mean that. We're going to have to try really hard as this podcast grows and see if we can get someone on that can answer these questions,
Yeah.
So I think that's it for He-Man and Skeletor. I'm going to say thumbs up for He-Man and thumbs sideways for Skeletor.
Yeah.
What
Solid
say you?
sideways. Yeah, I'll give it a side. He's my least favorite Skeletor action figure.
Yeah.
Even
2000X.
I actually really like the 2000X sculpt. The only thing I don't like about it is the weird hunchback look that all those figures have. But I like how his chest is sculpted. It kind of makes him look like a demonic, decrepit type of creature. I don't know. It's very cool. The only one I have for reference is the Disco Skeletor figure hanging here on my shelf, and he's really shiny, so you can't really see those details. But I don't know. I dig that sculpt on him.
I think I'll have to say the 2000X is my least favorite. But hey, let's finish this up how we finished He-Man. What is your favorite Skeletor figure?
I think my favorite Skeletor figure would be. I actually really like the classics version of Skeletor, the first release.
Yeah,
I think they nailed it with that. It was a perfect blend of the vintage toy with updated articulation and sculpting capabilities. I remember seeing him. I think I said this about when I saw the prototype for He-Man in a magazine, but I remember seeing a review in a Toy Fair magazine for Skeletor for classics way back in 2008, and I was just blown away by how beautiful of a figure he was, and I couldn't wait to get him in hand.
Yeah, that's a good looking figure. There's no arguments with that. But my favorite, and I have him over here, is surprise, surprise, Filmation Skeletor. But it's the Ultimate Super 7 version. So it's not Classics Club Greyskull 2.0. This is the Ultimate with the laughing head.
Very cool.
But why I love this figure above the Club Greyskull is they improved it. I think one of the best improvements they did was actually the Club Greyskull Filmation Skeletor has purple within the hood. But on this version, they actually painted black within the hood.
Oh, very cool.
It looks just like the cartoon where I don't know if but the head's more floating. It's black.
Yeah, where it looks like it looks like it's floating in shadow or something.
Yeah, just like the Filmation cartoon where Club Greyskull Skeletor, I guess 2.0, is purple, and there's no coloring inside. There's no black paint inside, so you can still see the purple of the hood inside. So this is my figure, and I know that Filmation fandom is shining through. Be honest with you, Filmation I think has the quintessential looks of certain characters. For me, it's Skeletor, and another one would be Merman. And I just think the best Merman version versus the mini comics versus the vintage figure is this version, the one that we also got in Masterverse as well, and Masters of the Universe Revelation. But that is another podcast.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Colt, do you have anything else to say about He-Man and Skeletor Masterverse?
Just that, I mean, as much, we kind of talked down on the Skeletor figure. I'm still happy he's in my collection. Like, I will buy a new Skeletor and He-Man figure every time they release one.
Oh, I'm happy. I'm happy he exists too. So,
yeah.
Like
been better, but that's okay.
Yeah.
There's always room for improvement.
And you know what? they improve dramatically with each wave. And
Definitely.
as we continue with this, when we're not saying, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to happen in every episode, because we hope it's going to be mixed up. But as we continue with these segments and work down the Masterverse line, I think we're going to be even more and more and more and more excited, unless we get to Fisto, and then Colt's probably.
Once we get to fit, well, that's where the garbage can comes into play. Those videos that you're putting on the For Eternia website on 10 seconds on how to improve figures for Fisto, I just get it in hand and then it just goes right into the garbage can.
You're 10 seconds away to a better figure. Junk. I think on that episode, you're just going to protest, and in your seat will be your wife showing up for Tila figures or something like that.
Or I'll just be sitting with my arms crossed the entire time. Just won't respond.
You know what? And I have a feeling people would tune in for that, just to see that reaction. All right, guys, we are now going to move to our detailed analysis of the episode 1, The Power of Grayskull for Masters of the Universe Revelation. Now, for a proper detailed analysis, we're going to go through the episode chronologically and then expand on points that are important to us. So if you guys want to pause this podcast, if you haven't seen episode 1 in a while, The Power of Grayskull, and then resume it after you watched it, feel free. So, but we're going to walk through step by step. So you're going to recall every scene as we go through. So episode 1, this is the reinvigoration of our fandom. Colt, here we go.
Yes.
It first begins with this terrific intro where it starts out with exploding red lava rocks and bursting streaks straight from the vintage toy packaging, right?
Yep.
And that just gives you chills. And then Bear McCreary's wonderful music kicks in, which actually harkened back to me to the classic, and I hope I'm not butchering his name, Basil Polidiris score of the 1982 Schwarzenegger film Conan the Barbarian.
Okay.
I mean, that score would start out dum 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 dum, but here you add on this like baritone choir, you know, that no one wants to hear me do this, but it's
no, please continue.
But it's just awesome how that the music and the choir chimes in. And then we get this great voice of actor Liam Cunningham narrating, you know, in the center of the universe on the planet Eternia. You know, I can't do his voice. And the backdrop, we get these gorgeous illustrations that harkens back to the beautiful art we got on the vintage toys.
And do you know who the artist is for those pieces of work?
Tell us.
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's Ruby. Is it Rudy Obrero?
I believe correctly? I believe you're saying that correctly. Yeah.
Yeah. If I'm correct, you know, it is that old art taken from the old, you know, from the vintage toy line and packaging and promotional materials. I don't know if I could be wrong on this, but I think there's also a few Earl Norham references in there, who is also another big Motu artist, but I'm not entirely sure on that. I think it's primarily Rudy's work.
I didn't know it was Norham, but you might be right. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm not very my memory's not great with the artists, but whoever was behind it, it was gorgeous, and it was animated like you ever watch a motion comic?
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of the old Golden Books VHS retelling of those
wow.
you know, the Master of the Universe storybooks that
yeah
they had VHS collections where they would tell those stories, and they were narrated. They had voice work, but they had very minimal animation as well.
Yeah.
And that, as soon as I saw that intro, I was like, that's got to be a callback to those Golden Book videos.
It was so good. And, I love when, maybe not many people catch on to this, but I loved when Liam says that phrase where every other word is the letter S. He does 4 S's in a row.
Yeah.
Where he
It's when
goes,
he's talking about Snake Mountain,
he
the
goes,
sanctuary of sin and sorrow.
yeah, that's your 4 S's.
Yeah.
Snake Mountain, sanctuary of sin and sorrow. And it's
And
like,
he hits each of the oh, it's beautiful.
yeah.
No, I was, like I said in the last episode, I watched the entirety of part 1 as soon as it became available, which was 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mhm.
So I was sitting on my couch just letting this wash over me, this beautiful artwork, this amazing music, this amazing narration, and I was hooked. I was like, this is what I've been waiting decades to see.
Yeah, I
This is
wanted to
amazing.
rewind it. I was like,
Yeah.
but I'm like, no, watch this thing first,
Yeah.
because
I got to get through the story.
yep, yep. But the only thing curious was, and I guess they're being accurate, but it was funny that they changed, only 3 others share this secret from the Filmation cartoon to it's now 4 others sharing
And
this
they
secret,
include Cringer in that.
and they include Cringer in that. So,
Mhm.
I
And
wonder.
I even like he does more of the alliteration at that part too. He goes through, their names of who shares the secret with Adam, and he says, Guardians of Greyskull all. And just the way he says it is just like, it gives me chills.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, it's
yeah.
it's beautiful.
So it's a wonderful setup, and it only appears once in the first batch of episodes, and then only once again in the.
I think if you watch each episode individually, I think it plays at the top of each episode.
Does
But
it?
I'm not entirely sure on that, because when I watch it all together as one full thing. But
Okay.
I think that's basically the intro, and it's supposed to be similar to the Filmation intro that played at the top of each episode before the title card pops up.
Colt, that never dawned on me that might be a Netflix mechanic.
Yeah, I think it's part of the autoplay mechanic that it does the intro once, but if you're watching it back to back, that's the only time you see it. But I'm not 100. I need to test that theory out, but I think that's what's going on.
Okay, so it's never played for me that way. Even when I've selected episodes on their own.
Okay.
But it's possible it still might be some sort of mechanic to do that. Since I've watched them all, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a wonderful intro. Whenever they play it, it's wonderful. And so that intro ends, right? And then thunk. Strider's
foot.
Yeah, hits the ground, and a mysterious cloaked rider is leading Clawful and Spikor bound at the wrists.
Mm-hmm. We see fireworks in the distance lighting up the night sky, and then we see Castle Greyskull in front of us.
Yep, and we see Kevin Smith's name, and then everyone else's name, and then we transition to the palace, and the fireworks are going on, and we're introduced to King Randor and Queen Marlena enjoying a celebration with the rest of the people. Except someone's not enjoying it. It's scared old Cringer quivering under the table. Oh, that Cringer, scared like most cats when it comes to loud noises,
Yeah.
But he's afraid that the palace is under attack. It's the same
And
old
Cringer. And I even love the little line that we get from Man at Arms where he says, take it from what does he say? Take it from someone who's seen Battle Cat. And he gets,
yes,
he drops the Battle Cat moniker in there. Like, it's
very
cute
like
wordplay.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I saw what you did there, Duncan.
Like, yeah, it's the meme of Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at the TV screen. That was all this. He's like, he did it. He did the thing. He did the thing.
And then in comes Tila,
Mhm.
who reveals she is being knighted as the next man at arms.
Yep.
So she's getting a captain of the guard promotion.
And this is her party. This is a
Yep.
celebration in her honor.
Yep. And I have no problem. Some people got bent out of shape. Man, it's a man at
It's a title.
arms.
It's a
And
title.
I'm like, guess what? Man also stands for human, you
Yep.
know, and it does, and man is in the word woman. And
Yeah.
geez, guys, don't get bent out of shape over that.
Yeah.
All right. I don't mean to bum you out. I'm just saying,
Let's
but
be positive. Let's be
let's be
positive.
positive.
But yes, that was one of
Actually,
the complaints, one of the many complaints
yeah.
against Tila, which is silly.
And actually, I'm feeling nothing but positive as I'm watching this. And
Hmm.
so then Orko appears, played wonderfully by Griffin Newman.
Hmm.
And it's all his real voice too, guys. Griffin used no artificial modulation.
I think in interviews he stated that he recorded voice work and then they tried to run it through some modulation just to see what it would sound like, and it just, the more they modulated it, the worse it sounded. And they're like, no, his voice is
Yeah,
great on its own,
yeah,
which is cool. Like, he does a wonderful job.
yeah. And can I say that this is my favorite Orko of all time? You know, I was
Hmm.
like I was saying before. I think in the previous podcast, as a child, I just tolerated him, didn't hate him, didn't love him, but just accepted him. But in the way he was in Revelation, I mean, so good. I mean, didn't didn't Kevin Smith say we'd all want to get tattoos of Orko after Revelation?
Yeah.
well,
Yep.
well, I'm not getting a tattoo. I'm not about to reveal a tattoo here, guys. But for the first time of my life, I have an Orko standing on my work desk, or rather floating, probably on my desk. So that's quite an accomplishment when it comes to me and Orko. So
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I never did care for Orko too much, and
until
until Revelation,
yeah.
and that's quite a feat. Because
So
before then he had always just been played for laughs. He was the comic relief.
yeah. And you know what? I love his design as well. I love those eyes. I don't
Hmm.
know. There's something more endearing.
Well, and I
The,
like his scarf. I like how, I don't know, his scarf, just, I like how it hangs down the front of him, and it just has a weight to it. And
yeah.
I don't know. I like I like how his hat is designed with the little beads hanging from it, and you can see the stitching in the hat. It's very cool design. It looks
Yeah.
like a weathered, I don't know, like a, it's just very cool.
Yeah. So props to Orko.
Yeah.
And Orko is annoying man at arms, and man at arms is sitting there getting frustrated with him. And let me just stop right there and just say, for me at this point, everything feels right in the universe. It
Yeah.
felt like when I was watching this that I put on a warm, cozy, familiar pair of slippers that I haven't worn in years, and all these good feelings are new again. It's like what they say is there's some friendships, you have a distant friend with someone that when you finally meet
Yeah.
up again, it's like they never left. You just pick up.
Yeah. Yep.
And this is so far me watching this episode, how this show felt for me. I'm just smiling ear to ear and felt like I'm just back with family.
Yeah. And we're gonna talk. You know, we I have a lot to say about this later in this
Yep.
episode, but it's very purposely done, and it's very much harkening back to the Filmation days, and it's making you feel, oh, this feels like a Filmation cartoon. It's goofy, it's silly, it's happy,
Yep.
and that's all for a purpose.
Yep. And we have that innocence back, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So okay. So Tila says, "Where is Adam?" And then we shift back to Castle Grayskull and
And we
see
see Adam.
uh
He's there.
no
He
we
pulls the cloak off, doesn't he?
You mean He-Man? Okay,
Yeah.
you threw me off. Yeah, we see
Sorry.
He-Man.
Sorry.
Yep, we see He-Man approaching Greyskull with those two prisoners. And at this point, Colt, did you get any inkling that this He-Man was really Faker? Your first time watching this, do you recall?
I thought that something was going on. I didn't think it was really He-Man. I don't know if I thought it was Faker just yet. I was wondering if it was maybe an illusion of some sort. But the way he was acting, he wasn't smiling, he wasn't saying anything. He was just this stoic, massive figure standing there. He came across very ominous. And in my mind, I remember thinking that's a weird choice to introduce He-Man and have him feel intimidating rather than friendly.
Yeah. Yeah, same thing with me. He felt very stoic, and it felt like something was up, right?
Yeah.
I believe I did start thinking possibly Faker, but but I wasn't 100% sure yet, not at least at that point.
Sure.
So so we continue, and Zor appears and transforms into the sorceress on the Castle Greyskull drawbridge in front of what she thinks is Clawful, Spikor, and He-Man. And what surprised me here is she's no longer hiding her transformation into Zoar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Falcon, this alternate sorcerer's form, used to be a secret throughout the Filmation series, but now it's out in the open. Interesting. You know, granted, her costume wasn't much of a stretch. It provides a lot of clues, you know, like she looks a lot like
All
this
the colors are
Falcon.
there.
Yeah, that I see once in a while. This one single Falcon, you know. But I don't have an issue with it, a big issue, but I just found it interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think that was another hint that cued me into that this wasn't He-Man, is that, you know, when she reveals herself, he steps behind her, leaving her between him and these villains.
Yeah,
And I just remember thinking in my mind that doesn't seem like something He-Man would do.
right. And he didn't
You know?
say a word. I mean, he's not
Yeah.
the strong silent type for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And let me say though, talking about sorceress, I also found actress Susan Eisenberg, who played the sorceress, just absolutely wonderful in this role.
Mm-hmm.
And her voice is so forceful and commanding, yet still compassionate. You know?
Yeah. Well, it's cool because she's Wonder Woman as well.
Yeah, I know.
She voices Wonder Woman in a lot of the DC animated projects.
I mean, she's really great, and she's been doing Wonder Woman for how many years?
Long time, decades.
Yeah, yeah. So no, she's got a great voice, and
Mm-hmm.
it suits the sorcerers. It really does.
It really does.
Yeah.
Perfect casting.
Mm-hmm. So it turns out that Spikor really didn't have a football injury and a bum leg and a walking stick. Where did that come from? You know? So, you
Yeah.
know,
I guess I just assumed that if this is, you know, if this is He-Man, then this is just a wound that Spikor sustained in a fight with He-Man.
yeah. But it really, you know, but this turned out to really be Skeletor and Evelyn hidden via the power of the shaping staff. And what I appreciated here was the shaping staff seemed, I mean, it was cleanly broken, but it's still broken in half since the 1983 Filmation episode titled The Shaping Staff,
Mm-hmm.
where He-Man broke the staff in two. And after He-Man broke it, the shaping staff still had transforming powers, but the power became unruly. It became untamed, and it could turn on the caster. And that's what happened in the episode once it was broken. the transformation backfired in Evelyn, and she turned into this like winged baby dragon eel versus her target.
Right.
And so perhaps Skeletor discovered how to mend the shaping staff's focus. But I was extremely thrilled. I was probably maybe the only one, I don't know, but I was extremely thrilled to see that shaping staff half its size. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, you remembered
That it was broken.
that it was broken. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you continued it here.
Yeah. Very cool.
So yeah. So so I think we go back to the palace, and Orko's magic is as unguided as ever, and he accidentally, excuse me, traps Cringer in a bubble that is not only soundproof but airproof. So then suddenly Adam shows up with a needle, pops the bubble, and when
He
Orko
says the
says,
line.
yeah, when Orko says, does anyone have the power to, I don't know, get Cringer out of this thing? He says, I have the power. Another wink, wink, nod,
Mm-hmm.
nod,
And we're still very firmly entrenched in that old Filmation style of, cartooniness. It's silly, it's goofy,
Yep.
it's lovely.
It's lovely. That's a great word. It's lovely. But also this lovely moment is also an uh-oh, because that means it's not really He-Man at
Because
Castle
if Adam's
Grayskull.
at the palace, then
Yeah.
he can't be He-Man at the castle either.
Yep. Yep. So we go back to Castle Grayskull, and Faker, well, He-Man, who turns out to be Faker, bear hugs the sorceress from behind. And the sorceress says, "You're not Adam," but Adam here is actually spoken by Teela, as the scene quickly cuts to Adam bear hugging Teela from behind. And this is what I was trying to convey, Colt, in the last podcast, that one of my favorite things about this series is the masterful way these transitions are written.
Mm-hmm.
As a writer, there's writing a great story, and then there's a creativity that goes beyond that. The marvelous technique of lining up one scene against another so seamlessly. It's marvelous craftsmanship with creativity that's conscious of the medium you're writing for. It's storytelling leveled up for television.
Yeah.
And you had asked me in the last podcast, like, AJ, what's your favorite aspects of or your favorite scene of Masters of the Universe Revelation? And this masterful technique that is woven through many episodes is one of the aspects I just love about this. They didn't need to do that, but it's so creative and so well done that I go, bravo.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
Yeah. Very, very good transitions. One thing I like about this scene is, Adam is hugging Teela, and she quickly, puts him into an arm lock.
Yeah.
And it made me laugh because, this is a direct reference to a scene from 2000X where Teela does the same thing to Adam, in a similar moment. I think in the 2000X series, Orko is doing a magic show or performing, and he asks for a volunteer, a damsel in distress volunteer, and Adam volunteers Teela and tries to push her forward to be Orko's volunteer, and she quickly turns the tables on him. So I like it because it shows that playfulness between the two characters. That they're friendly with each other, but they also like to tease each other. And
I love it where she calls it an attack, and he's like, "It's a hug."
yeah, it's like, come on. It's like not every, and it also starts the tradition of this series of Tila interrupting Adam when he's trying to say something. Whether a serious comment or a playful comment. Like this one's obviously playful, but we'll see that continue throughout the series where he's about to tell her something or say something to her and she'll interrupt him.
They really have a great banter,
Yeah.
Tila and Adam. So
you can tell that there's a close bond between the two.
Sure. Yeah.
And I like that.
You too. So back at Greyskull, Sorceress uses her power to project some sort of heat within Faker's bear hug, causing his synthetic skin to melt. And then she just explodes his arms clear off. And then Faker does that something, really cool where tentacle-like wires sliver from its severed shoulders and retrieve its severed arms.
And it's very cool because, before this happens, this is how Skeletor gains access to Castle Greyskull. Faker has the sorceress restrained and he drags her within the castle itself. And this allows Skeletor and Evelyn to gain entry.
Well, I think, doesn't she run? I think from Faker? Yeah, so
she runs after she blasts him, but they're already inside the castle.
Well, that's true. They somehow off scene moved in, a little. But
yeah.
But by the way, back on those tentacle severed arms, man. On a side note, I would have loved if the Faker Masterverse figure had those severed arms as accessories, where they could be displayed like that with some sort of like plastic, tentacle coils.
Yeah, the cables or whatever they are. It would be. I'm actually surprised that customizers haven't done that yet.
Maybe we'll have to do it.
Maybe we'll have to. Figure out a way, because it's a very cool little thing that they do with Faker there.
It's a great look. It really is. Yeah. So, all right. So after freeing herself from Faker, the sorceress she runs and then casts a cylinder of magic protection around her that harkens us back to a similar cylinder of light around the sorceress in the 1987 feature film Masters of the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Did you go there too when you saw that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the callback that I thought of. Obviously in the film it was a prison that she was contained within by Skeletor.
Yeah, it was.
But yeah, it was definitely, that was the thought that went through my head.
It was you can't come out. You can't come out versus you can't come in. But and then the sorceress says, that line, time after time you've tried to take this castle. And it's that great line featured in the teaser trailer. And just on a personal level, I so love that line and its delivery. I just love it.
Yeah, it's good. Well, and it's the very first line that we hear with this new Revelation project. That's the line that kicks off the teaser trailer, like you said. And that was our very first introduction to, kind of what to expect from this show. And it's just such a,
it's a good line.
It's a good line. It's delivered perfectly. It carries weight with it. It's good.
Yeah. So Skeletor reveals he's not there to take the castle anymore, but he's after the quote unquote pearl inside.
Mm-hmm.
So Skeletor knows Castle Greyskull's secret finally, thanks to the Orlax, if you guys have read the prequel comics.
Yeah.
If not, he just knows. So then this cool assault happens where Skeletor's army starts assaulting the castle with masses of skeletons, land sharks, a bunch of those, what are they called? Bashosauruses.
Yeah, there's some Bashosauruses. There's some Rotons hovering around.
Yeah. And then the sorceress activates the castle's defenses,
which is very cool.
Oh, it's such an awesome scene, And she's doing this all from her little protective force field prison, while she's
Mhm.
trying to hold off the villains, and so cool. And Skeletor says to Sorceress, you're overwhelmed, and to call your champion. Another great line from the teaser trailer.
Mhm.
Call your champion. These lines are so quotable. I think they're just going to stick with us.
Absolutely. And they do that thing where, especially the call your champion line is, at least for me, it's like, okay, now we're going to get to see He-Man, the real He-Man. We're going to get to see him in action. It's coming.
Yep. Yeah, basically, back at the palace, right?
Mhm.
Tila is being knighted, and Adam is going to get that message. But before he does, Man in Arms is beaming with parental pride.
Yeah.
And then Randor, good old Randor, remarks that he hopes he can be proud of Adam one day.
He throws that shade at Adam, and it's just heartbreaking.
It's harsh, right? It's
It's like, come
so
on, man.
cold. And there's real parents like that,
Yeah.
that later, if they ever go through an experience like this of losing the son, they regret, and they mean well, but they're just so cold sometimes.
And I think about it often because, you mentioned earlier that you're a father. I'm a father as well.
Yep.
And we try to walk that line where we need to be firm with our kids so that they can learn and so that they can grow, but never at the extent of, to where they feel unloved, or I don't know, where they feel marginalized, I guess.
Yep.
It's tough as a parent. It's tough. So part of me can understand what Randor is trying to do. He's trying to instill some sense of responsibility into Adam. If he only knew.
Yeah. All right. So, Sources calls Adam telepathically and lets him know that Castle Grayskull is under attack. Duncan tells Tila, the new man at arms, to lead them into battle, and the Eternians leave for safety. And Queen Marlena says to herself, as she looks at Adam, be careful, Adam, which means dum dum dum. Queen
She
Marlena
knows. She's
knows
aware.
that Adam is He-Man, which anyone who remembers the Filmation episode, The Rainbow Warrior,
Hmm.
they already knew that back in the
Yep.
80s,
Yeah, those hints were dropped in that episode very heavily.
Yep. But now it's confirmed. The Queen knows. And so finally, He-Man's alone with Cringer, and Adam tells Cringer, not He-Man's alone, excuse me, Adam's alone. And he tells Cringer that sitting is for quitting. And then,
And doesn't that just make you smile, that line? Like, that's a
yep,
classic Filmation era line, from this character.
corny.
It's
Yeah.
corny, it's cheesy, but it's also
Charming.
optimistic and uplifting. And I'm like, yeah, sitting is for quitting.
Yep.
It's great.
So here's their transformation sequence, and Bear McCreary's awesome He-Man theme starts kicking in, and Adam goes naked, and
Yep.
but then I personally love how the armor and gauntlets and the belt slapping on Armor's body sounds like a hammer striking hot
Oh,
iron.
exactly. Yeah, that's something that I wanted to focus on for just a minute too, is, when those gauntlets, like, they just clang onto him and you feel the weight of it and you just feel the power of it. It's a great transformation sequence.
Hear that ching,
Hmm.
ching. It's
And
almost like
it's
a
just,
magnet,
yeah, it's very cool, very well done, very, very well animated. I like it a lot. I think I don't know, it's hard to say that it's my favorite transformation scene when the Filmation transformation exists, but it's right there. It's neck and neck. It's very good.
I think I love them equally.
Yeah.
They're different,
Hmm.
and both wonderful. And Yeah, I think they're terrific. It's hard for me to pick a favorite. Um,
But yeah, you get that He-Man butt shot too in that sequence. It just makes me laugh.
the He-Man butt shot. I was too focused on the H on the chest instead of the Iron Cross.
Yeah, you were too busy being angry about the H on the chest.
No, I was fine, and I was also fine with Cringer transforming into a much bigger Battle Cat than we're used to. But
Massive.
I like it, you know.
There's also a slight difference in them both armoring up. He-Man's carries that metallic, you know, like you said, the sound of just iron being hammered on. But with Cringer, it's more of a kind of it sounds like leather slapping.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah, yeah.
I was watching it again recently and kind of paying attention to that because but the sound effects that they use for both of them are different, kind of portraying the different types of armor they're wearing.
To take you off sidetrack real quick,
Sure.
do you prefer your Battle Cat to talk or just roar?
I like I like I like the roar better. I don't like it when Battle Cat talks. I like when Cringer talks. And to me, the reason why is because I feel like, much like Adam is the heart of He-Man, I think Cringer is the true heart of Battle Cat. And it's almost like when Battle Cat takes over, it's this fierceness comes in that overtakes Cringer's mindfulness and I guess sensitivity to things. Not to say that it makes him a dumb animal, but it's just more of a primal thing that the power of Grayskull grants to Cringer.
Right.
And I think I prefer it when Battle Cat does not speak. How about you?
I different answer for different times.
Yeah.
I I guess I can say I like when Battle Cat speaks in the Filmation series, and I like him not speaking in this series. It looks like obviously I don't have an answer, right? I can go either way because there's really no logic behind that.
Sure.
Maybe because it's a little more for children. I like the appeal of him. He-Man. But um, and this is a little more geared for adults, and I just like the roar. Maybe there's some actual logic behind it, but I'm fine like this. And
Hmm.
certainly as a Filmation fan, not raising my a flag, saying, "Hey, wait a minute,
Sure. Sure.
he talks," But
What
go ahead.
one thing that I always liked that I wish we would have got a little bit more of in Revelation is how He-Man talks to Battle Cat when they're both in their powered up forms. I like how He-Man just calls him Cat.
Yeah,
Let's go, Cat. I don't know. It's just such a cool. When I was a kid, I always just thought it was really really cool that
yeah,
how they would interact with each other. And we just don't get that a lot just because of the events of the show itself. But that's okay.
yeah. The amount of time you have, and
Yeah.
yeah. All right, so back to the battle at Castle Grayskull. Skeletor's army has the upper hand until Tila and her army appears and
Hmm.
charges the evildoers. Among them is Clamp Champ and your all-time favorite character,
Our
Fisto.
favorite guy, he's right there, front and center, first episode.
And Clamp Champ is crushing hover robots, and Fisto is smashing Skelecons. And
Hmm.
then the badass man at arms takes on Trapjaw on an array of rotons, and he's almost stopped by Beastman and a Bashosaurus.
Hmm.
But He-Man, steps
Cool.
in.
Yeah, you get that cool moment where you're watching this arms with this massive boulder just swing forward to crush Man at Arms, and then you see him cringe, preparing for that attack, or
Mhm.
preparing for the impact of that,
Yeah,
and then he does that, where he just kind of looks up like it should have hit me by now, and then
yeah,
He-Man's just standing there with with a big grin on his face,
yeah,
effortlessly holding this boulder in place.
yeah.
It's such a good entrance.
And he has a little smile, a little gleam in his eye, and yeah, that's
Oh, I
cool.
love it.
And then let's see. Battlecat, I think, finishes Beastman off, but meanwhile, Faker is bashing away at the Sorceress's protective force field until Man at Arms rushes in and slices and dices Faker with a laser.
Yep.
Which is a cool scene. And he just
So
splits in
good.
half, and it reveals, oh, it's Man at Arms, you know?
And we get the first hint that there's might be something more between Man at Arms and the Sorceress. They both give each other kind of a knowing, endearing look to each other. They both have a smile for each other that goes beyond just being allies in battle.
Yeah, it happens real quick, but I do see it. But then suddenly, Man at Arms is blasted away with a sorcery blast
Yep.
from Evil Lyn. And then I think Evil Lyn goes for the killing blow.
Yeah, she
but
goes for the kill.
But then Orko appears just in time to deflect it and counter it. You know, all right, Orko.
Yep.
Yep.
Saves Man at Arms.
Yep. Teela then cuts Evil Lyn's staff into a wand
and gives her a nice Spartan kick.
Yes. And then maybe my favorite badass moment of the episode, Man at Arms punches the evil robotic steed known as the Night Stalker, aka Nightmare, and says, "I'll handle this, Nightmare." Ugh.
I love it. I love that it's just Man at Arms punching a horse. It's great.
An evil robotic horse, ladies and gentlemen. We're not.
Let's be clear. It's a robot. It's not a live animal that he's punching.
Yeah, and it's just so awesome, man. And the robotic horse takes it. By the way, it doesn't.
Oh yeah, just shrugs
level
it
him.
off.
Yeah, but I'd almost like to see that scene continue. You know, but it's such a badass moment, and I love it. You know.
Yeah.
And we don't get to see that scene because Teela runs down to the heart of the castle where the Council of Elders buried the secrets of Greyskull. So does He-Man. And He-Man explains that all the magic that flows through Eternia starts there. Skeletor attacks He-Man, saying a familiar phrase, you know, "Let this be our final battle," you know, which is that classic line from the 1987 film.
Yep.
Frank Langella. And then Skeletor does that real cool thing with the Havoc Staff where he swings it, he scrapes the head on the floor, which opens the Havoc Staff's mouth and sends a fireball shooting out of it. I was like, this is wild.
And then He-Man just shrugs it off. He's just engulfed in flame, and he's fine.
This is He-Man, brother.
Yeah.
And then, so Teela and Evil Lyn, they fight, and He-Man and Skeletor, they fight, and Skeletor does stuff like he transforms the bottom of his Havoc Staff into a stabbing spear, and Skeletor does one of the coolest moves where he rams his fist through a portal, which resizes Skeletor's fists like 20 times larger to punch He-Man.
It's awesome.
It is awesome.
Just punches right back, and
does he break his wrist?
It looks like it. Like, I mean, I don't know if he actually breaks it, but it hurts Skeletor for sure. It is. His hand looks.
Yeah, it flops there.
Yeah, it's like.
And then he recovers quite nicely. So I don't know, but
very good moment.
It is a great moment. So Skeletor separates He-Man from his power sword thanks to a reflective blast. And just when Skeletor is about to retrieve the power sword, we hear "Enough!" And Moss Man appears, voiced by the great Alan Oppenheimer, who did Filmation Skeletor.
Yep.
Guy's in his 90s, bless his heart. And
he's massive. When Moss Man appears, he's massive.
Yeah. Oh, Yeah, he's the size of Granomir,
Mm-hmm.
and but then Skeletor burns Moss Man with fire coming out of his Havoc staff. And this is the moment for me where innocence is lost, because
Yeah, this is the change.
yeah, we had 130 episodes, guys, of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe before this, the Filmation series. And while there was close calls, no one died to this point. Now, I get it. It's a kid's show. But still, for me, not fracturing the orb, but this moment, Mossman's death to me starts the real fracturing of the universe,
Yeah, and it's a pretty horrific death. I mean, he's engulfed in flames, and we see his skeleton before he turns to ash.
Yeah. It's
You know,
and a scream in pain.
yeah, yeah. I
You
mean,
know?
it's a shocking moment for sure. And like you said, this is the moment where innocence is lost, and this is the big, I guess, the big turning point of the series.
Yeah. It's and it's escalation that begets escalation.
Mm-hmm.
It's checkers that just changed to chess in Eternia, and naturally enraged with watching his friend die, He-Man charges Skeletor with his sword to finally put an end to it, and finally use the sword the way it was meant to be, as Skeletor points out, stabbing Skeletor. But what Skeletor really means is meant to be the key to the Hall of Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And as He-Man stabs Skeletor, Skeletor grabs He-Man's forearms, thrusts the sword inside deeper into his body to unlock the orb behind him.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Kevin Smith called the moment metal, when Skeletor is grabbing,
Yeah,
his forearms and shoving the sword deeper. And I have to agree with that. So
yeah.
it is.
So there's a game that I play with my brother whenever we, play video games or watch things, where we'll send each other screenshots of what we're doing and just ask, "Hey, is it metal?" You know, this is
I
one of
thought you
those
were going to say
moments.
you stab each other with stuff. There's a game, because we were just
Well, we,
talking
we
about stuff.
yeah, we did make our own swords growing up on a farm. We would weld chunks of iron together, but that's another story. But no, we play the Is It Metal game, where we send each other
Yeah.
screenshots of just different things that we're doing, video games, things like that. But this is definitely one of those moments. It's Skeletor grabbing the sword, that's in He-Man's hand, and just pulling it deeper inside his own body.
That's great.
It's nuts. And even He-Man has kind of a look of horror on his face.
Yep. Yep. So Evelyn, she runs over to heal Skeletor, who falls after the wound, and it seems like he takes a little bit of that restoration power and then pushes her away,
Yeah,
like you healed me enough, for now.
it's interesting. Yeah, he kind of waves her off, and it's an interesting scene.
Yeah. And Skeletor reveals that the Council of Elders concentrated their knowledge and power into this orb to protect it, and concealed the Hall of Wisdom into Castle Greyskull to protect the orb. That
Mm-hmm.
Castle Greyskull is actually an illusion,
Mm-hmm.
and hiding its true identity, the Hall of Wisdom. And there was a lot of controversy, not compared to everything else, but some fans got bent out of shape with the word illusion.
Yeah,
That Castle Grayskull apparently wasn't tangible based on this word. But the way I see it, first, illusion, the definition of illusion doesn't necessarily 100% mean intangible,
sure.
a mirage, but it means more of a disguise of true purpose. And if you look at
You,
the, go ahead.
go ahead. I'll let you
Well,
finish.
if you look at the Hall of the Wisdom, when it transforms into Castle Grayskull, the towers are a little different heights, and you could be on top of these towers, and you're not. if you're dealing with different tower heights as an illusion, that would be practically impossible, and we even see chunks of Castle Grayskull come apart later in later episodes as Evil Lyn is destroying the place. And so I think it's more the word, the appropriate word is transfiguration.
Either transfiguration or transmutation. But yeah, it's a tangible change, not necessarily a holographical change or a mirage like you stated. And that's what I was going to say when I interrupted you, is that it felt more of a tangible transformation.
And they use transfiguration in the prequel comic books.
Yes.
So
now this is also a bit of lore that, like you said, fans were upset by this, but this is actually lore that goes back to the day I don't think it's mini comics, but it's early storybooks. There's an early storybook sequence where it explains the reason why Castle Grayskull looks so grim.
There's many sources, but there is a record album that came out in 1983, the same year as the Filmation series, that had this entire backstory of Castle Grayskull being actually a hidden hall of wisdom and in the orb, and a lot of that was also in Michael Halperin's Bible for the Filmation series. So so this was actually, and that's what this series did, is pull from available lore when the Filmation episodes themselves did not provide an explanation.
Yes.
So
so people, I guess my thing with this series is, generally when people are upset about something that the show does or explains, it's a pretty safe bet that we can point to instances where, no, it actually is something that has happened before in the lore. And it's another example of Revelation being very consistent with what came before.
Yeah. And the history is all there if you choose to look for it, So okay, so as smart as Skeletor thinks he is, and he does think he's pretty smart,
he's the smartest man in the room, the smartest skeleton man in the room,
the smartest demon from another dimension. So he thinks he's smart, but to obtain the Elder's secrets, he smashes the orb to release the power, which starts a cataclysmic event.
But it's such a classic Skeletor moment, though. Like, he has within his grasp ultimate power, and the best he can do is shatter it.
Yep.
Like, it makes me laugh. Like, that's Skeletor.
That is Skeletor. So the sorceress then holds back time, but she says time is stronger than magic. So there's only moments to spare before all the power that originally created the universe escapes the orb and is unleashed again, basically creating, I guess, another Big Bang, a Big Bang 2.0 in the universe, it seems. So the sorceress reveals that she stopped time to see Teela one last time. And Teela responds, "Me?" Because she clearly doesn't know that she's the sorcerer's daughter. Another explanation that is about to come finally, but doesn't come, right? How many times in this series someone's about to reveal to her that the sorceress is her mother and it doesn't get revealed,
So somebody interrupts. And in this case, it's He-Man interrupts.
Yeah, it's He-Man with a plan, He-Man wonders what would happen if he calls on the power of Grayskull again while he's already in the He-Man form. And would the sword not only draw the power of Grayskull, but all the power from the cracked orb? Would it contain the blast?
And this is another moment of confusion for Teela, because she asks, "What do you mean, in this form?"
Yep.
she's confused by what he's talking about.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, here it comes. This is the revelation, This is why
Mm-hmm.
it's in the title. But I ultimately love this plan where the sword becomes a conduit to all the energy and the power that, we've
Yeah.
seen Adam say, by the power of Greyskull, and turn into He-Man. But now we have He-Man saying, by the power of Greyskull, just to,
Just
to,
to suck it all up.
to suck it all up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so time starts slipping back in motion again, and the sorceress yells and gasps as she struggles to slow it down again. And personally, I just really love the power level of the sorceress on display here and what she can do.
Yeah.
Often in the Filmation series, we could see a little bit of her power set, and I wished we would see more.
Mm-hmm.
And here we do. And
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty. She's holding back time.
yeah,
Like that's
yeah.
pretty powerful.
She's struggling, but she's holding
But
back
she's doing
time.
it.
Yep.
Yeah. No one else is doing it.
And I love the visuals of the blast still, the
Yeah.
blast like slipping in motion only to be held still again, only to be finally, released,
Yeah.
So
Well, and importantly, this is, there's this moment where He-Man says what, comes up with this plan. And the sorcerer says, yes, that it will be possible, but you have to be holding the sword in order for it to work. And Tila says to him, but the blast will kill you. Even somebody as powerful as you, it will kill you. And He-Man has that great heroic line where, he says, if I don't do this, then everybody dies.
Yep.
And it's just, I think Kevin Smith said it a few times. It's one of those moments where this is a defining moment for He-Man. He doesn't step into the room, see that things are super serious, and just say, well, I'm just going to go. He's like, no, this is why I'm a hero. This is my purpose.
Yeah.
And it's pretty epic.
It is. And yeah, no, it is a great line. And so knowing he will die doing this, He-Man calls on the power of Grayskull, as the sorceress says, we're out of time, and He-Man pulls all the energy from the orb.
Mm-hmm.
The power splits the sword, which is a nice callback to the vintage toys.
Yes, the twin halves.
Yeah, where you get to split them apart. I love that.
So good. It's when I saw that, as soon as I saw that, I was so excited. I was like, okay, we're getting the two halves of the power sword, which we never got really in the cartoons.
Nope.
The closest we came was Keldor's swords in the 2000 series, which that was the initial plan. It was supposed to be the two halves of the power sword.
Yep.
But
and Filmation, there was an episode where the sword got merged with another power sword.
Yeah, it got merged with the Sword of Ancients.
Yep. But still not the same thing. But
Yeah. We're
here we
seeing it
get
now.
Yep. And
just he's holding the swords, apart. There's magic coursing. Time is no longer restrained. Skeletor is now seeing what's going on.
And that's the point now that Tila sees, because Tila is struggling to see against the blinding light.
Mm-hmm.
And Tila turns away from the brightness, and she watches with one eye Battle Cat transform back into Cringer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the realization hits, and her eyes go wide, and squinting and blinding light be damned, as she spins her widened gaze towards He-Man to realize, it's Adam. And it's like, wow, it's happening. Tila finally
She
knows. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
and
so good.
Skeletor has that wonderful line where that power is mine. Or no, he says he's holding all the power of the universe in his bare hands. He's just a boy.
Yeah.
And it's just so good. And we see Adam standing there holding the two swords apart, all this power coursing through.
Yeah.
And then he looks back at Teela.
Yeah, Skeletor grabs He-Man by the wrist just at that
Mhm.
last minute and yells, like you said, "No, the power is mine."
Mhm.
And then the look back, that look. I mean, this might be my personal favorite scene in the whole series. To answer your question, finally, if I really think
Sure.
about it, the music gets quiet. You hear the quiet, somber melody, a soprano voice, as Adam looks back at Teela right before he dies. Then there's that flash of white, and then death.
He's gone. He's
And
gone.
he's gone. And it's such a gut punch, and it's so well done. That I'm like, wow, this is just.
It's yeah, I agree with you. It is. I don't know if it's my favorite part, but it's probably my second favorite part in the entire series.
Yeah.
The look on his face is one of regret, and kind of, it's a sorrowful look. He's not afraid of what he's doing. He's not afraid that he's about to die. He's accepted that, but he's looking back at her, and he has this look on his face that, he's just silently begging her to understand.
Yeah.
And it's heartbreaking. This was the moment, and then, the immediate moment after this, where Teela falls to her knees and calls
Yeah.
out his name. She falls to his knees and says, Adam.
Yeah.
She has tears in her eyes, and it's heart-wrenching.
She whispers, I think, Adam, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
She just says it very quietly.
All behind, you hear that like a somber choir
Yeah.
singing,
Yeah.
and
It's very much a eulogy type of music.
And Teela, kneeling behind around that burn mark,
Yeah.
just on the ground. And then again, that transition, right? You see that painful face of Teela.
Yeah.
And it takes us to the palace.
Yeah.
A
And she's just
masterful
still in shock from it, but yeah, it's
transition
that beautiful transition work they do.
where it's the background changes, but the shock is still the same, right? It's the same thing.
And this is one of those moments that I point to when people criticize Teela for not mourning Adam. And I mean, she's on her knees weeping for him. I don't know what else she needs to do to mourn, and this isn't the last time she weeps for him.
No.
The series. But this moment is, I mean, it brings her to her knees.
Yeah. It's a wonderful moment that I think when I first started watching the series, first time I saw this episode, first time I saw any episode, obviously it's episode 1, I realized there was something special here. I realized that this wasn't just going to be some fun He-Man cartoon, that this was going for something more and achieving it. And I was so impressed.
It's one of those moments that we kind of talked about in the last episode, where eventually this podcast is just going to devolve into us crying. But it's that moment where I'm watching a He-Man cartoon and I'm feeling these emotions, and I'm feeling I'm feeling that sadness that they want to evoke there.
Oh, Colt is feeling many emotions.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, so
it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is. So let's
get
back
to
the palace.
Yeah.
So Duncan shares the bad news to the crown that He-Man has succumbed. He's dead. And everyone but King Randor now knows what this means, that Adam is dead too, But Greyskull has lost our champion, King Randor proclaims. And the queen replies, Randor, we've lost our son. And Randor goes ballistic. And you know what? As a husband, as a father, I get it. The death of your child, compounded by the immediate realization of the lies you've been told all your life by the people you trust and supposedly love you about your son, not their son, about
Yeah.
your son, where they couldn't be honest to you.
Hmm.
And 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 please, I don't think I could ever personally forgive my wife for not telling me if I was Randor. I mean, that is a difficult ask, you know?
It's a realistic reaction
Yeah.
to this kind of a thing. Not only is it, just the realization that you're being lied to, but also, what we hinted at earlier in this episode about Randor being hard on Adam all his life. Now there's tons of emotions going through him right now. He's grieving, but he's also, I mean, he's feeling guilt for how he treated his son, never knowing that he was this great hero all along.
He was what he wanted him to be.
Yeah. I
That's what
mean,
Randor realized. Yeah.
and
But
it's
too
all and
late.
it's all at once. It's all at once. It's overwhelming. His reaction is realistic and expected, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Tila's reaction too, you know?
Well,
That
and I think this is the moment where Tila fully breaks.
yeah.
Randor is furious. He's lashing out. He's demanding Duncan to leave the kingdom and never return, or else he's going to be executed. And then he commands Tila, Duncan's adoptive daughter, or so we think, to carry out that sentence. Escort your father from the kingdom, and if he ever returns, he's executed.
I don't think Randor would ever pull the trigger on that.
No, absolutely
No
not.
pun
He wouldn't.
intended. Right.
No, this is anger speaking.
This is, yeah, anger speaking. I mean, if he wanted him dead, he'd kill him now and not even just, give him a chance to, leave the palace. It's just, yeah,
Hmm.
it's just anger. It's just, it's the combination of grief and anger and heartache and betrayal and broken trust that is
Hmm.
just too much to bear,
Hmm.
for Randor and Tila. I just see them with
Absolutely. It's a
parallel.
parallel. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And I understand why she's done and she quits.
Yeah. She's furious. She's mad at what happened. She's grieving the loss of her friend. She's grieving the loss of two people. She, up until the moment she saw Adam standing where He-Man had once stood, she didn't know. So now she's lost both He-Man and Adam, and I know they're the same person, but all her life they've been separate people.
Yeah.
She has that grief to carry with her. She has the shock to carry with her, and then the anger sets in, and the realization that everybody around her is lying to her, just like they lied to Randor. It is very much a parallel thing for these two characters. The two characters that really didn't know the most intimate part of somebody that they loved.
Yep.
And that's a lot to take.
Yep. And it's realistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
so, yeah, so, this is what I alluded to earlier, where, this is where things change. It's no longer a Filmation episode. It's no longer that lovely feeling of warmth and happiness and joy at watching our characters doing the things that we watched them do as kids. Things have just become real. The hero that we grew up with is now dead, and the other heroes are broken and falling apart. This family unit is falling apart. Tila leaves the palace, throws down her crown, throws down her sword. It's it's a turning point for what this series is going to be about, where the stakes are high, the stakes are real, and the consequences are real.
yeah, it's pretty much saying what the series you started with in that episode is not the series you're finishing with, right? It's like
Yeah.
when Orko tells Tila not to go, right? We can get
Yeah.
through this together like we always do. But
Hmm.
sorry,
You can't.
Orko, you can't. This 131st episode of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe is not going to reset to
It's
a
not.
happy place like the 130 episodes before it.
And
You
in
know?
those 130 episodes that came before, He-Man never died.
Yep.
You know,
That's
It's a lot
great.
to swallow.
Yeah, it is. It's wonderfully painful, right? What's
Yeah.
that song? John Mellencamp, "Hurt So Good," right?
Oh yeah.
It's it's like that. So
hmm You know, and this is one of those emotional reactions I had to this series, and it's not going to be the last one that I have, but it's one of those moments where I hate what I'm seeing on screen. I hate that Tila's leaving. I hate that everybody is heartbroken. I hate that He-Man's dead. But I know that this is a story that I'm going to be into, and that narratively, this is good storytelling.
yeah, agreed.
And I can't wait to see what comes next. Because, you know, good stories, we need that drama. We need the bad things to happen so that we can see the good things happen as well.
Yep.
So this is a good episode. This is a great episode.
Yeah,
Probably one of my favorites.
let's just cap it off that Tila leaves, and within the crowd, we hear the voice of Alan Oppenheimer again.
Yeah. Yeah.
He proclaims, He-Man finally killed Skeletor,
Mhm.
and then Tila gives the palace one more look back, and then leaves, and then we get Bear McCreary's masterful score is the sound of, I believe, like a single somber trumpet,
Yeah.
slowly playing He-Man's theme. And
Yeah.
then and then brought
It's a funeral song.
yeah. And then I'm like with you, bravo. This is quite an episode, you
Yeah.
know. It's amazing, everything that's happened, and it's only how long? I don't know. I wish
25 minutes or so.
maybe 28. I
Yeah,
don't know.
something like that.
I don't know the running time. Shame on me. But it is well. It's you put a lot in an episode, but it doesn't feel to me underserved at all. I
No.
don't
No.
need anything else. I don't need 5 more minutes of them yelling at each other about not knowing
No.
the secret, or 5 minutes more of the fight, or it's just, I think, perfectly paced, and terrific episode, man. It's just
Yeah.
and a sign of things to come. I mean, we're going to be going through this, and we're going to keep saying this is a terrific episode.
Mhm.
This one's a 10 out of 10 again.
Yeah. And this is I'm trying to talk about this in a positive light, but it's another one of those things where, when people criticize the show, I don't know. It's hard for me because what I'm seeing stories similar to other stories that I've loved in comics and film that I've seen before. This is a Death of Superman story. This is the Batman Nightfall story, where the hero that we love, the hero that always comes through in the end, they're broken. They're killed. They're dead. What happens next? This is insane. You know,
Yeah.
we obviously know that, it's very much grounded in the sci-fi comics territory. We know things aren't permanent when it comes, death isn't permanent. Isn't that the comics rule?
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess as when I saw this, I loved it because I knew we were getting a special story from this setup.
Well, I think it looks like, we don't know for sure. There's no official confirmation, but it looks like their hard work paid off enough to grant them to continue this story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And if that turns out to be true, because there hasn't been an official announcement yet,
hmm
then that is where I believe there's a silent majority. The people who watched
Yes.
the first half went back and watched the second half. They might have not realized it came out during Thanksgiving holiday because it wasn't
Sure.
heavily promoted, but did catch up with it, did love it, maybe even watched it again, maybe even watched it a third time. And whatever those
hmm
metrics are behind that Netflix wall, it seems like it's it's deemed the money and the time to go back and do this again. And if anything, that is their trophy, their acknowledgement that people did like this.
It's validation.
It's validation. Yeah. And look, we're a sign, right? I mean, look how much we're just sweeping about this, and the people come to Eternia.com, and the people that go to the Facebook groups and buy these Masterverse figures.
The people that send us emails,
Yeah.
It's touching people. People are responding positively to this series.
Yeah. I mean, except for Fisto, what did they do wrong?
Well, it's Fisto. That's what they did wrong.
Okay.
I love how I love how a comment where I say I don't like Fisto as a character has turned into now I have to double down on my hate for Fisto.
I can't help myself, Colt. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. It makes me laugh. It's
it
very
got
funny.
stuck in my craw, and then it's like I've got to ride this until there's no air in those tires.
You can ride it till the fist falls off.
That's right. Hey, wait till we get to that Fisto joke. But that's that's the second half, or to some people, season 2. But all right, we've been going at this for a long time. Colt, do you have anything else additional you want to add or say before we sign off?
No, I think I've said everything. It's just
Great.
a wonderful episode, lovely character work, and it sets the stage for what's to come.
Agreed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, or as Kevin Smith says, kids, that's a wrap. We want to thank you for listening to today's podcast. If you enjoyed it, please consider subscribing. And if you're watching on YouTube, please like, subscribe, and comment below. We love the feedback. And who knows, we may even share some comments next time on the air. And you can also email us at foreternia@gmail.com. And as always, please visit us at foreternia.com for all the latest news and updates, as well as links to our social media pages that can be all found on that website that can help you stay up to date with all of our content. So that's it. From me and Colt, again, thank you for listening, fellow Eternians, and let the power return. We'll see you next time.